All right, guys, listen, this is the blues riff and B. Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
Welcome, everybody. I'm author Douglas A. Burton, and joining me this evening is Hollywood screenwriter Kamran Pasha, a friend of the channel. Tonight, we're going to discuss an unlikely matchup. We've got a biopic, Michael, about Michael Jackson, that's already out and really killing it out there. And then on deck is the first Star Wars theatrical release since The Rise of Skywalker way back in 2019. And those are two different topics, but both of them have to do with fandoms and, you know, who's watching these films, how these films are made, what critics are doing. So there's a lot of moving parts in promoting these films, and ultimately what's said about the film, and then what the film is, and what the audience is actually reacting to. So, and I think we might have some similarities between Michael and The Mandalorian and Grogu when all is said and done, as to whether these movies are good, bad, or just ugly. So, so to get started, we're gonna tackle Michael first. Michael, obviously a biopic about Michael Jackson. This movie, I'll admit, was not really on my radar. Most musician biopics are a little. I just don't get into them. I'm not against them. I just don't get into them. How do you feel about that? Or do you get into the biopics on musicians?
I can, but if I'm a fan of the music, or it's very historically significant in some way for me. I mean, for example, I watched the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie because I just like Baz Luhrmann as a director, right? I like his musicals. And I mean, obviously, Elvis is such an important historical figure, but I hadn't listened to much of his music. You catch everything, Schoolhouse Rock, whatever, Jailhouse Rock, forgive me, and other stuff. You see stuff, and it just floats by. But I hadn't really listened to his music very closely. And then I watched the film, and I fell in love with it. And then I went out and got an album of Elvis's greatest hits, which is a lot of them, right? And they absolutely hold up. They're incredible songs today, right? And so they can be great. I like Queen. I didn't feel any particular desire to go see the Queen biopic, although my friends who saw it really loved it. I just didn't care that much about Freddie Mercury, brilliant artist as he is. But Michael is very important to me in my journey as a human being, as an artist, and as I'm a songwriter as well. I've got my first song out on Spotify. That's so right. It's he's very important to my personal growth as a person. So I was going to go see this film, and I did. Did I kind of talk you into watching this movie? I think I did.
You did. So there was a two-phase thing. I heard about it. I think I saw a trailer as I walked through a room and glanced over, and like nothing. And I remember seeing a trailer in the movie theater, though. I think for Hoppers or something that I was watching with the kids, and I looked at Crystal. I was like, that actually looks pretty good for a biopic. Was kind of how I filtered it, but it didn't last past the movie. I kind of forgot about it. But I do remember reacting to the trailer and being like, that might be kind of interesting. I came onto the stream with Lorena Creole, with you, and she had not seen it either. And you were like, this is a great movie. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go see Michael. I wasn't going to. I had no plans to. And my one son had a sleepover, so he couldn't go. So I was like, yep, my other son's available. Lucas, I'm taking Lucas. We're going to go see my did. And I got to tell you, I expect, and I ended up liking it a lot, like a lot. I found myself getting emotional at certain scenes that I wasn't expecting to get emotional to. Just the sheer artistry of the total package. It wasn't just music. There was performance. It was like a magician, the choreography, the purity of the artistic expression. There was a lot going on, and I found myself kind of getting emotional. I did not think in a million years I would. And we got it, and I ended up taking the whole family to see it on Sunday. So I've seen it twice at this point.
Oh, that's great. But, we got to really credit Antoine Fuqua, the director, who's, one of the great directors of our time, right? And he really brought it. In my understanding is it wasn't an easy shoot. It was several years, right? And my understanding is that the entire third act was completely redone, right?
Right.
It was a different ending. Apparently, the other ending that was shot, my understanding was actually taking out Michael all the way up to the scandals. And actually, I think the final scene was him getting arrested. And I think that would have been a mistake for this film. I think that's not what the audience would have responded to. And whoever made the decision, whether it was the producers, the studios on the line, they said that's not going to work as the last act. Or again, how do you get to a point where you film a movie and then you decide that we're going to throw out the last act? But that's Hollywood, right? That's how. I mean, literally spent probably $50 million on that last act, and they have to start all over again. Well, and the last act now is what people wanted to see, which is essentially the bad concert in 1988, right? And it's a live performance essentially, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's like watching the concert live. Whatever played into the decision to have to cut the third act did this biopic a big favor, in my opinion, because what you see is the Michael you remember that you responded to. So, I'm a child of the 80s. I was born in 76. I grew up and the Jackson 5 was already on the radio. They were a known quantity. I had baby boomer parents. They were more 60s, I would say, music with a little 70s. But Michael kind of exploded on the scene in the early 80s. And it's really hard to explain to people that the cultural phenomenon Michael Jackson was. If you were living in the United States or wherever, he's a global brand, in the early 80s. I mean, we would go to like day camps and the talent shows, and we would fight over who would do Thriller. I was like, no, we're doing Thriller. And then we'd have to flip coins and pull out of a hat because everybody wanted to do a Michael Jackson video for the skit. I mean, it was everything. He was everywhere. And so without
any social media, it was just pure. I mean, yes, there was MTV, I guess. But again, as the movie showed, he barged his way into MTV when they didn't want him, right? So he had the power to barge his way into MTV before, there was social media. Like he'd already created that kind of global power base and persona, so he was able to get on that platform.
Totally. And Michael Jackson's music is a genre of its own. It's not really Motown or R&B. It's not really, I mean, if you listen to Beat It, it's like there's like full-on electric guitars going on in there. It's not really rock and roll. It's Michael Jackson. And they're the funkiest beats you'll ever hear. And the music, you want to sing it. You want to sing it. You want to go right along with the cadence.
It just gets into your head. You can't get the lyrics out. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And, some of the scenes that I thought were the best in the film, where I found myself being like, my God, this film has captured some of the magic in the bottle, which, if you're trying to capture magic in the bottle of Michael Jackson, good luck, because it's such a unique combination code. And yet this film got there. It got there.
And that's what's magical about it is that, it's an impossible standard to get to, right? That because he was such a unique artist in every aspect, including his body. I mean, his bodily movements were like you said, everyone wanted to play Thriller. No, it's not just singing Thriller. Everyone had to act it out, right? Everyone had to act out, beat it, with the movements, right? His bodily movements are what made him. And everyone was trying to imitate, and nobody quite got like the moonwalk. Everyone was trying to do it. And what's amazing in this is that, Jafar Jackson, his nephew who plays him, mastered his uncle's body language. When he does the moonwalk, when he does Beat It, when he does the Thriller, those are Michael's little ticks. Those are the little tiny movements he's made. He studied his uncle perfectly to get this right. And, I don't think I've seen, it's not mimicry. In some ways, it's like channeling.
Channeling.
There's obviously we have the joke of the Elvis impersonators, and they're fun, but it's clearly a mimic, right? Nobody's quite gotten Elvis's body. I actually think the movie, the Baz Luhrmann Elvis movie, came pretty close, right? I think the actor came very close, but in this case, he nailed it right on, and it's kind of a magical performance.
Well, the voice, the body movement. I heard him in an interview. Even the way Michael Jackson walks, just the everyday walk from the door to the car, like those kind of things. But as fans, it's the dance moves that's like etched in our brain. We remember those dance moves, and he completely nailed that stuff. I remember watching when he got on there to do Thriller, and there's just certain like movements and facial expressions that Michael Jackson does, and I was watching him, and I was like, unfreaking believable. Something happened in the theater that hasn't happened to me in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the guy sitting next to me and I started just saying stuff to each other out loud. We're like, oh, did you see? Like, that never happens anymore.
Experience. People start talking to each other, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm one of those annoying guys who just everyone shut up in the theater. I didn't do that. Right? Because I was like, you have to engage with people, right? So I was like, I went there. I saw it in Pennsylvania. Went with my sister, my brother-in-law, my nephew, who's like, who's a freshman in college, right? And he sort of vaguely knew Michael Jackson, and so a lot of times he didn't understand what was happening. Like he couldn't understand why my sister and I were tensing up during the in anticipation of the first moonwalk. He didn't understand why that performance live. We were like, oh my God, it's coming. Oh my God, it's coming, right?
Here it goes.
And we're singing out loud, right? So he's like, what's happening? So we're all conversing in the film. But it's okay because it's not disrespectful, because that's what Michael Jackson did, is that you had to talk about him while he was doing his stuff.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. You have to talk about him, because what else are you going to do? It's just because you're still stunned. Here I am in 2026. I'm still blown away by what I'm seeing on screen, same as I was in 1982 when I was watching, or 1983 when I was watching MTV. When we were kids, I told this story on Lorena's channel. We would go to this one house and we'd be babysat, and we were all the same age, but they had a younger brother, and his name was Lucas, funny enough, and we were like, Lucas, watch MTV. When the Michael Jackson video comes on, you come get us. And we would play, and he'd be like, it's on, and we'd all run downstairs and watch the video. So it was an event. That Thriller video especially was an event. So, but the person sitting next to me, like you, normally I prefer silence, and I want to engage, and I want to internalize the movie. This one, like you said, there was an urge to kind of, wow, did you see that? And at one
that's
point,
what you did on his concerts, and that's what you did when you were watching his MTV videos. When you were watching stuff in your house, you're like, oh my God, wow, and you're getting up and dancing with it, right? It just had that ability to do it. And I really, again, the only person that had that other ability is Elvis, right? People mimicked Elvis, right? They still do, right? They have to, even while watching him on Ed Sullivan, right? Or whatever, they had to, they like, I got to do this thing, right? And so, there is Michael's the king of pop and Elvis the king of rock and roll, and there's no coincidence that Michael married Elvis's daughter, right? It's almost like,
royalty.
Who else is she going to marry? I mean, nobody else lives up to her dad except this guy, right?
The house of Presley and the house of Jackson.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's an amazing film, and I wasn't shocked by it, but it's quite revelatory, the incredible disconnect between the critics, the media, the Hollywood narrative. Like if you go to the trades want and still want this movie to bomb, right? They still want this movie to bomb. They're still saying, it's going to turn down next week, whatever. They're still saying it, right? And then fans who literally just couldn't care less. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, this is a massive disconnect, and this has been a problem, and it's tough to see that it continues to persist to this extent. The movie critics.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because I have to explain to my kid. My kids already know that if the critics say it sucks, it actually might be good. My kids have already internalized this on accident, because every time
in the last decade, the critics have essentially presented themselves as shills for narratives, right? For social narratives. That's how they presented themselves. The funny thing is that's not what they were. Like, when we were kids, again, in this era, we would watch, Siskel and Ebert. And we would get honest thumbs up, thumbs down. We get the fat guy and the tall guy, and we get their honest man, perspectives of normal men on the street, right? That's how the critics were. They were intelligent people that could communicate to the person on the street, right? And you could say, and again, thumbs up, thumbs down. You don't have to agree, right? But now critics are seen as the voice of a cultural narrative that's being dictated from on high, which people have burned out over the last 10 years. So this disconnect, what's amazing is the critics ain't figuring it out. In some ways it is because they're just trying to keep their jobs. Most of these critics, if you looked at the critics, right, at least if you look at the top critics on Rotten Tomatoes, they're all New York Times, LA Times, and so who is their audience? Their audience is their editor.
Right.
The audience is their editor and the narrative that paper is trying to put out, right? So their audience isn't the general public. It's meant to manipulate the general public. I mean, that's always been what papers and media have been. But now we see the incredible disconnect between that narrative and the public.
Well, totally. The critic score is becoming like the Politburo's approval rating. This is what you're supposed to like or not like. And then you got the fans. And my thing is they should be close. They should be close. There should be some general consent. So when you get these wild skews, you have critics that have completely failed to live up to their. You had one job to tell us if this was good or not.
Again, what is the point of a critic if it's not to understand what human beings want?
Exactly. You have to know.
Yeah, I mean, you have to you have to understand why the general public likes something, right? And even if it's not your taste, you have to be able to express why they would respond to it. And yet there is a complete lack of understanding, perhaps intentional, perhaps again, there's a gun in their head from whoever's paying their paycheck, right? This is the story you got to put out there, right? But we've reached a stage where people just ignore it. I mean, I ignore the critics' tomato meter. I just ignore it. I go straight to the meter because that's usually what, in my opinion, is.
The critics' score is now just a marker that I don't take seriously. My goal is to see if the critics even come close to the audience. The audience score is the right one to me. The question is, are the critics even close this time? And when I pull it, I was like, 39. How could you watch Michael? Even if you have issues, even if you find the craft to be hasty. I mean, there are viable criticisms.
I critiqued it in my Patreon review, which I generally loved it. But I said, look, if I had been the screenwriter, I would have done this, this, and this. It doesn't matter. I still love the movie.
Yeah, I had to tell Lucas, my son, I was like, in my day, in the golden age of the 1980s, I was like, the critics would come out and I would describe what it was like to turn on the television and have Ebert and Siskel sitting there debating in a movie theater and then looking at the camera and be like, I gave it this. And then they'd be like, 2 thumbs up. And I was like, if a movie got 2 thumbs up, if Ebert gave it a thumbs up and Siskel, right to print, that is the marketing material right then and there. And we would know, like, if they both said it's thumbs up, it's probably a good movie. I was like, there was no adversarial relationship between fans and critics like there is today. And it's funny that I have to explain this to the next generation, but I did. And by the way, both of my kids love this movie. And I mean, loved it. Lucas he memorized all the words to Beat It already. Even I was like, oh shoot, I'll get mixed up on a line or two.
Yeah, the thing is, again, we didn't necessarily, we watched these videos before we had the internet. So, sometimes the lyrics are what you imagine them to be when you were 12. Like it was when because now if I like a song, I go and type in the lyrics on Google and whatever, and I get what the lyrics are. And I'm often surprised. Like, that's not what I thought it was, right? So I suddenly realized I was singing some of the lines, and I've been singing some of the lines and beat it wrong. Who cares? Who cares?
Even worse.
I beat it. I sing my Beat It.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what the lyrics are. I sing my Beat It.
What's crazy is sometimes you'll sing a line in a song that means something to you, and then you'll find out years later it was the wrong lyric. So you're reacting to this lyric that actually never existed. That's happened to me before. Yeah,
but that's what art is, right? You see in the art what you want, and in songs you hear what you want.
Well, and there is something to those music and those chord changes, that perfect chord change at the right moment in the song that hits you. And whatever lyric is on that chord change elevates. And so even if you got the lyric wrong, you're still responding to something that's in the art, that's in the music itself. Yeah. So it is. And music is very unique in that way. I was going to say too, so as far as biopics go, in case anyone was curious, you see the year. This is in order, Straight Outta Compton, Bohemian Rhapsody, so on and so forth. You see the domestic open. Springsteen opened to 9 million. You know, the best one here is Straight Outta Compton, opened to 60.2 million back in 2015. And then Bohemian Rhapsody, 51. Those are two back-to-back that did really well. Then it cooled off, and they didn't even include that Neil Diamond one, did they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they think how much
with Hugh Jackman, but point is, Michael Jackson destroyed that record with 97. Didn't they project it at like 35?
Yeah, of course. That's their wishful thinking, kind of like with Sinners, right?
Yeah,
they put out there. Literally, the New York Times wrote an article like, "We will be, critics will, scholars will be analyzing the disaster that is Sinners." It's like the first weekend, it's like, and then it just keeps making more and more money every week. It's like, why was the New York Times saying it's a disaster on the first weekend, and then it becomes this hugely profitable movie?
Right. That's absolutely right. And this is a good metric. Are people interested in this? Do people want to see it? Are they coming back? Does it have legs, which usually means repeat viewings? I'm a sample size of one. I've already seen it twice. So it came out. It shatters the domestic record. The all-time record for a biopic is Bohemian Rhapsody, which, by the way, I haven't seen, but I understand that it is excellent. It seems like it was a really good movie. Again, I wasn't a big biopic guy, but $910 million worldwide. That's amazing. Almost $1 billion for a biopic. So that is the standard. And if you scan down this list, nothing's really even close. It looks like 180 to 190, maybe 200. Elvis did 288. That's the next best one right there. But 200 seems to be the run out of steam point if you can get there for these biopics, except for Bohemian Rhapsody. Michael in 10 days is at 424 million worldwide. It is going to challenge that Bohemian Rhapsody. I think it'll be difficult. It'll be difficult because there are some great movies coming up that's going to start competing for attention rapidly here. But I think it's going to compete with that. And it's the best opening for a biopic in history. And it could end up being the best or the second best biopic in terms of worldwide haul of all time.
Yeah. And again, that's the pivotal thing, is that I think this thing is going to continue to have legs, right? Yes, there'll be other movies that are going to come out that we're going to enjoy, including, we'll talk about The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah, we'll get there. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get there. But there's other movies. But I think this is not a movie. This is a phenomenon. This is an event, right? This is something different. It's, so people are going to go see it again and again, right? Just like Sinners was an event. It wasn't a movie. There was something, it hit some chord.
It was new. It was original.
Yeah, and people went and saw it again and again. I saw it 6 times, right?
In the theater. Wow, that's a lot. I haven't seen a movie that many times in a while.
6 times in the theater, right? And each time I found something new. As a filmmaker, each time I was like, I was like, I didn't see that. I didn't see it. It's amazing, because, and I believe she won the Oscar this year for the cinematographer for Sinners, won the Oscar for best cinematography. She deserved it. Right? Cinematography stunning. But again, there's stuff in the movie that, you're just like, how come I didn't see that in the last 5 versions that I saw, right? And I think Michael will have a little bit of that, but it's more about the emotion of seeing what feels to your mind is Michael Jackson alive again.
Yes. Yep. So
your brain processes it as that.
Right. So Jafar Jackson, who is the son of Jermaine Jackson.
Yeah.
Jermaine he's the son, and he's not an actor. This movie introduces him. This is his first ever film. It reminds me of forgot the actor's name from Life of Pi. Sure. He was never an actor, and he just kind of worked his way right into that spot. And then he nailed it. He crushed the role. Yeah. Same thing happened here with Jafar Jackson. He said he kind of wanted to, but without experience, obviously he wasn't going to push for it. So he was kind of mildly leaning into it. And the director and the producer were mildly leaning his way. And then it got to the point where there was no other person to do it. And the consensus in our whole household at this point is that this role could have only been done by Jafar Jackson at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure the concern was they didn't want it to be a nepotistic casting. They didn't want it to be a stunt casting. Look what Jackson is doing. But this is the guy. This is in the same way that, this is the clearest example of channeling that I've seen since Denzel Washington channeled Malcolm X.
That's right. I remember you saying that there was a real like a portal opened in the actor and the actual person that they were portraying somehow crossed the streams during the filming of the movie.
And I'm going to give you a very quick thing that Spike Lee said about Denzel, which I think is applicable to what we witnessed here. When I say channeling, it's something different than again acting portrayal. It's a real craft. But what happens? There is a moment, and you're an author. There's a moment when you zone out. At best writing, you literally leave, and the muse takes over, and you don't remember. And then you read it. I wrote that.
Yeah,
and that's what Jafar's performance is like. And Denzel was like this. And Spike Lee, I saw him give a talk here in LA a few years ago, and he said a moment. There's one of the moments in the film where Denzel is recreating one of Malcolm's impassioned speeches about racial injustice, right? And he does it word for word, captures the actual mannerisms and all of that of Malcolm X making that original speech, and then he finishes the speech, and he just keeps going. He just keeps ad-libbing the rest of what Malcolm would have said in his mind. And the cinematographer said, should we call cut? And Spike's like, no, just let him do it. Just let him do it, right? Yeah. And he went on for another 10 minutes of just like impassioned and riling up the crowd and saying this because and with this incredible vocabulary, because Malcolm X had memorized the dictionary, so his vocabulary was incredibly high with and so he was using these incredibly complex Latin words and all that in passion and saying these things. And then finally, when Denzel stopped, Spike's like cut, and then walked to him and was like, hey man, did you practice that whole addition to the monologue, right? And Denzel looked at him and said, what are you talking about? He had no memory of saying any of it. What? His last memory was saying the line up to the point of the actual speech, and then he's gone. Then
so he's in
gone.
pure flow.
Then Malcolm X has come in and finished the speech.
Pure flow.
He had no memory of it. And anyone who's an artist knows that moment when you're out. And I felt like Jafar Jackson was out throughout this movie, especially when he was recreating Beat It and Thriller and the getting on stage. He was out. There was no Jafar Jackson there.
It's funny you said that, because I think my two favorite portions of the movie, and they're back to back, are the Beat It sequence and the Thriller sequence. And when the Beat It thing was going on, and you have to see the film. I don't want to spoil it, but there are moments.
We can talk about it, yeah.
Well, there are levels, right? And Michael Jackson's doing this, and then suddenly Michael Jackson adds that next level where he's and there's like these hardened Los Angeles gang members, the Crips and the Bloods, who are like typically at war with each other, willing to kill each other on the streets. These guys put down their hatchets and were like in Michael's world, and they were cool about it. And Michael taught him how to dance. And then Michael kicks it up a notch at one point, and it's a special moment because they know it, we knew it, and no one needs to be told the thing. We just witnessed it. It just happens. And the part that hit me, and the first time I really got emotional was during the Thriller sequence, because I'm watching, because only a biopic can do this. You're not watching the video perfectly. You're watching the video, and then there's the cameraman, and then there's you could see the work,
the creation of the video, right?
Creation of the art, right? And you're watching it, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, there's zombies in the background doing Michael Jackson moves. I was like,
that was amazing. What was amazing, we have to really credit Antoine Fuqua, who recreated
all of it.
Yeah, and then we have to credit these incredible dancers, because they recreate the moves. It looks exactly like the videos. I remember when the Beat It sequence, they start filming it, whoever they got for the dancers, they look like the people in the video. Like them. They look just like them. I gasped in the theater and I said to my sister, it looks that guy with the striped shirt, the white guy, it's him. Right? Yeah, totally. Remember all those guys. And then, and then all of those dancers doing the zombie dance under full makeup. God bless the casting, director of this film that put together these people that could do that.
And to bring the moment back to life, the artist back to life, and to see the pieces, it's like the pieces clicked together again, which can never happen normally. It's like a time machine. And I was watching, I just thought to myself, this guy took Night of the Living Dead from 1969 or whatever it was, and he mixed it with his own music and stuff, and you get Thriller. Who would have ever put that aspect of pop culture, the zombie phenomenon, into a music video and then make it work, and then make it work at one of the highest levels that you can make
and we see in this thing is that, so the Thriller video is like 12 minutes long, right? Because the video, the music song itself is like 4 minutes maybe, and there's
Right.
8 minutes of a movie. There's 8 minutes of a horror movie where they're being chased by zombies and creatures, right? And because he wanted to be a filmmaker like his hero Charlie Chaplin. He talks about
That's
that.
right.
That Charlie Chaplin made movies, made short films. He's like, I want to make short films. This dude wanted to be a director. And you see that in the film is that he goes and he corrects the director of Thriller. He goes, can we do it this way? Make sure you see my feet. He's directing the video, not the director.
Yeah. Well, and it's not like some rented director. That was John Landis in the seats. You know, this is an established director. And then you had Vincent Price involved in the project, who, iconic right from the era before me. So
yeah, forever the laugh, his brilliant, I mean, it's forever immortalized now, right?
Totally. So you've got greatness coming into this from these other angles too that you don't even think about sometimes. But it was just a special thing to have a biopic, to sit in a theater and have this experience of sensing that they're recreating something special, and then you can't help but react to the specialness of what they just recreated. Only a movie that's done at this competent level, at this high level, beyond competence, can do this to you. And it was special. The guy sitting next to me when Beat It came out, he's like, they just brought Michael Jackson back to life. And I'm like, yeah, he just called it. He's like, it just happened, you know. So
my brother-in-law was thought the movie. He's like, he looks just like him. He's like, he looks just like him. He's like, he was laughing like in awe. He's like, he looks just like him. And yes, I mean, there's a familial resemblance, but also Michael Jackson, as they show, he goes through plastic surgeries, and they show all of that. And the actor still he's obviously using prosthetics to look like the different, reconstructed Michael Jacksons over the years, right? And he's still he's still present. Yeah,
and I said it then, I'm gonna say it again. Jafar Jackson should win an Oscar for this performance, because it does what you want out of an Oscar winner, which is to transcend the role and to bring such a presence that, there was one scene that I thought the second time I was like, this is a scene that establishes something very subtle for excellent acting. It's when the Beat It scene, when he walks up to the gang members for the first time. He walks up, and he's a guy who knows he's a star, and he doesn't come across as pretentious, and he's dressed like Michael Jackson, but he doesn't come across as pretentious. He comes across as calm, utterly commanding, utterly aware that he's the alpha entity of the room. And yet there's no pretension. He's not putting these guys down. He's inviting these guys in. But the idea of downplaying star power instead of playing it up or sensationalizing it, I thought was a brilliant moment of acting, where I was like, this guy by downplaying him, by taking it down several gears, is more commanding in this scene than if he would have gone any other direction. And
that's what captured that moment, captured why Michael Jackson is a global phenomenon. You know why? Because every one of us believed he could be our friend. We believed he could use our friend. An incredibly talented friend, right?
Right.
He felt like a guy we could hang out with and like be in awe of, but he would never make us feel bad about that, right? And that's what you see. I mean, literally, he's with gangsters, and what's interesting in that scene is, spoiler alert, but what really happened in Beat It is he put actual Bloods and Crips who were killing each other in
real gang members,
and to get them to unite as human beings, right? And before he talks to them, he's watching. They don't see he's there, and they're doing dance offs with each other.
Yes,
these are people that are shooting each other in the streets. These are gang leaders who are killing each other, and now because to Michael's music, they're like doing dance offs, and then Michael shows up, and these guys are in awe, right?
Yeah.
And yet he is totally related to them, right? And that's the thing. These guys are, like you said, he's the alpha. These guys are killers.
Yeah,
these guys are people that have killed people, right, without any hesitation, and they are in awe of him. And that's the alpha, right? And yet he relates to them. So if he can bring together murderous gangsters to just come together through music, that's why he has this effect worldwide today. And the global box office, I'll put it up real quick here, is doing great. This is not an American phenomenon. It's not like the biopic is just doing good, here in the States. It's doing great overseas. This is as of today. The domestic box office is great, 188 million. That's great. But look at the international, 246 for a 10-day haul. These are great numbers. Yeah,
So
and international is going to continue to lead this thing, right? Because he is a global phenomenon. I remember the day that Michael Jackson passed away, right? In
2009.
2009. I was dating a lovely Romanian girl at the time, and she was so heartbroken that she was back in Romania at the time, and she was posting on Facebook that she's just going to spend the rest of the day dancing to Michael Jackson music in Romania, right?
Wow.
And so that's the power he had. Is his death made people mourn worldwide?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you we have one more segment here for the Michael conversation. I hope we gave you guys some substantive discussion on this movie, because this is not just another biopic, in my opinion. This was excellent, and it was an experience. And you'll walk away thinking, "Wow, Michael Jackson." He came back. I bought vinyl records again for Michael Jackson.
They're all over Barnes and Noble. I was in Barnes and Noble a couple of days ago. That's what's selling, right? They're vinyls
dude,
of Thriller. They're all selling. Yeah.
But yeah, the last thing I wanted to do here. Look at my son is 10 years old. Yep. He's not from my generation. He didn't grow up in the 80s.
Lucas, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Lucas, I love the Lucas Corner moment. Here's a Lucas Corner.
Okay. So what I thought of it was I thought it was a 10 out of 10. It was a masterpiece. The music was great because it's, of course, Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
So like there was his nephew was playing him. He literally channeled his uncle in this. That's what I said. Yeah, this is perfect, bro. And yeah, the music was great, obviously. The only reason I thought it was good was because, I mean, biopics, like my dad said, not really, I mean, they're okay nowadays. That's why, 97 for a biopic is absolutely amazing. And especially a couple days ago, I saw on its opening weekend, it got like 22 million, something like that. Yeah. So I just really liked the movie. And also we were watching the old music videos, and we were seeing that we know the moves, we understand the moves, but of course we can't do the moves.
Lucas promised me he was going to learn to moonwalk. I was like,
well, that's what I was going to ask. Lucas, have you been trying? Because you have to try. You have to try. That's Michael Jackson's. You got to try to do the moves.
It's crazy hard.
What are your top 3 Michael Jackson songs?
Beat It, Billie Jean, and Bad.
Oh, right on.
Good. Billie Jean's a great song, right? And they actually, when we don't see the video of Billie Jean, which was another groundbreaking video, right?
Yes, it was.
And but we see the performance of Billie Jean in Motown Live, where the moonwalk was invented, right? And so we see that, right? And so yeah. So what about any of your classmates and your friends watching it? Is there kids your generation are beginning to get it at all?
Well, I was seeing if a few of my friends would see it with me. My teachers have been seeing it. A few of my friends, they said that a few people that they know said that they loved it. So that just proves how big he is still today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. And my other son, who's he's about to turn 14, baseball bro, he's much more reserved and stuff. He tries not to get into movies. He tries to not get too into things. He's a little above all this.
He's too cool for that. I get it.
He's really, really cool. Even he was like, I always know when he's into something because he'll pepper me with questions. Yeah. He's like, if Michael Jackson was still alive, would he still be writing music? And I'd be like, yes, he would. So he's asking me all these questions. And I asked him, like, did you like that movie? He's like, yeah. He goes, honestly, it was really, really cool. So my other son, who tries to be cool, loved this movie and asked me a bunch of questions. He sat there when we watched all the Michael Jackson videos, the real ones, on YouTube. He sat there and watched them all with us. So, and he told me, he goes, I can't wait till this comes out on streaming, which means he wants to see it again already. So,
all right. Bye.
All right.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you for
thanks, Lucas.
Lucas Corner. The Lucas Corner. I love it. But that's his power. Look, I mean, I think Lucas was born after Michael passed, or was very young.
Lucas was born in 2015.
Oh yeah, so Michael was already gone for 6 years, right? And now he's got a new fan. He's got a new fan, and that's his power. In the same way that once I started listening to Elvis songs, right, I was like, man, this guy's great. You realize this guy's immortal. The songs are going to be around 50 years from now, 100 years from now. Same with Michael.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, like I said, it's a genre all of its own. If you haven't seen the movie, you got to put this up to the top of the queue, because this is totally worth the time to go see. It's an experience, and I think you'll love it. You'll see why that audience score is 97. So that'll conclude our discussion on Michael. And now we're going to go into one of my favorite, sometimes not so favorite topics, Lucasfilm, Disney, and The Mandalorian and Grogu. This is a movie that is on deck. There's a lot going on. There's a little bit of buzz about this, the movie coming out. May the 4th just occurred. It was rather quiet as far as May the 4ths go, which surprised me because I thought they were going to try to promote Mando and Grogu, which could be, some people are perceiving it as a sign of like fear and disaster. It could also be a sign of confidence.
Well, I'll give you my opinion on that because I do have an opinion on it. So, yeah. So basically, my opinion is that, and I talked about it in my from my sort of conversation with my contact inside of Disney / Lucasfilm, right, Sparrow, is that the execs are spooked. They were very excited and thought that, okay, now that Kathleen Kennedy is gone and Mandalorian and Grogu is coming, right, and people are and people are liking Maul, the animated show, and all of that everything's going to be fine, and all this decade-long drama online is going to go away. And I talk about it is that, unfortunately, because we have a lot of people invested in either Star Wars is dead because they're pathologically needed to be dead, it's an identity now for them, or they're making money off of that narrative, like getting people to click on their videos when they say that. So they were shocked that after Kathleen Kennedy left, there's still vitriol. That still people are grumbling, and now they're grumbling about Mandalorian. So I think they are nervous that a movie they believe deserves to be seen and is great is going to get scuttled by this unstoppable negativity and in an element of the fandom. That even when they get what they want, Kathleen Kennedy's gone, it's still not enough, which I predicted it would be, because these people are addicted to negativity. And so no matter what you give them, George Lucas comes back and runs Lucasfilm, they'll do to him what they did during the prequels. They'll be angry at him again, right? Because negativity there's no way out of it. So I think that's why they tried to keep it somewhat quiet, because they're just afraid of all these crazies. No matter what you do, they find a way to be upset about it. Every trailer they put out, there's this trailer sucks. What are you doing? Like, it's a good trailer. What more do you want from us, right? So.
Well, I'll tell you, I believe that this film, if it's good, will do fine. Like, if it's good, I think that the negativity now is like you said, kind of a byproduct from the last decade, where we've been pummeled with a company that we all used to look up to. And when I buy a video game or a book and it said Lucasfilm on it, I was like, yes, like, I bought, like whatever I could do, Lucasfilm, it was a brand trust, and that trust was definitely broken. So I do think there's some carryover.
There's a reason to it, but again, there's a reason, but at some point, like people, it's literally like I did a video earlier today with my good friend Paulie Latino Slant, right? And
Paulie,
yeah, wonderful guy, and out of nowhere, these randoms that have never, ever, and I've been on Paulie's channel a lot, right? Then these random people that have never, ever appeared anywhere in the chats or, suddenly show up and they're like, Star Wars is dead, Mando sucks. And it's literally like a programmed thing. It's like the moment they see anyone talking about Star Wars, they hop on the stream to say something. And it's like these people have never gone to Paulie's channel before, but they show up. So it becomes pathological then.
Yeah, well, and me, I don't like that. I always want people to take a measured approach, because to me, if the most important thing is to be able to identify whether something's good or bad, because today that's a skill, because of all the noise, because you have critics telling you don't go see Michael, or perhaps a group of influencers saying don't go see Mando and Grogu. So you get all these signals coming at you. Your job, in my opinion, as a viewer, as a member of the audience, is to know what's good or bad. And there's going to be some personal preference locked in that. Cameron, I think you like Tron Ares more than I did. There's going to be, people are going to have different thoughts on these things. But in general, you have to be able to know what's good and bad, and you have to know why it is for you. Like, why do you think it's good or bad? So, all this
generic Star Wars is dead. I mean, that doesn't tell you anything.
Well, the line Star Wars is dead, that line has been beaten like a dead horse. Yeah. You hear it everywhere, though. Star Trek is dead. Doctor Who is dead. Like, all these things are dead. So, but I believe that all of these things are one great story away from coming back, because a great story, what I'm reacting to is bad storytelling. It's bad storytelling, or it's an inferior product. So I think what some people might be afraid of with this is that it's going to come out, it's going to feel like a TV show, and it's not going to be special. But
no, I don't even think
that's
that
just a prediction. Like that's just a perception. We haven't seen it.
I think those who are attacking it are coming from two perspectives. One is they just are, like you said, burned out by what happened and are angry all the time, right? And don't trust Lucasfilm, but then they can't let it go. So it's like this itch they can't stop scratching, right? That's what I call
right.
Right? It's pathological. And then you've got the sort of sleazy people on YouTube who don't have any actual opinion. They're like, this will make me money. Let me say how much this sucks. Oh, that causes people to give me super chats. They don't have any opinion, right? As we've noticed, for example, and I even talked about it with Paulie this morning, and I confronted one of the idiots in the chat who was saying the new mantra of these YouTubers that began 2 days ago, yesterday, literally out of nowhere, they started saying, "Oh, we're all hearing that that Lucasfilm plans to reset the timeline using the world between worlds." Right? Guess who said that?
That's old news to
me, and I reported it because I reported it on my Patreon because I heard a good friend of mine, who's a screenwriter, talk to people at high level inside of Disney, said that's what Favreau wants to do. And I reported it, and I endured 3 years of mockery where people would respond, Cameron, you're full of crap. You don't have any contacts. And they would respond with the mantra, all roads lead to the sequel trilogy. That dumb mantra. Well, now the mantra is, and I'm seeing it on Facebook, I'm seeing it on social media, mantra is like, after all the work they've done, they're just going to reset it. Right? I was like, 48 hours ago, my saying it's been reset for 3 years was idiotic. Now you're all saying it. So it's a mantra, right? And so when one of these characters showed up in Paulie's chat and he started repeating that mantra, and I said, well, why are you just repeating what you heard from a YouTuber, right? And then he got all defensive. He's like, no, it's in my opinion. I was like, no, it's not your opinion. It's not your opinion. You're repeating a mantra. Yesterday's opinion was all roads lead to the sequel trilogy. Today's opinion is they're so dumb they have to reset it. That's the new mantra. And I don't like that kind of roboticness, but unfortunately there's an element in society in general. I mean, what we call the NPC, the non-player characters, right? World is full of them, right? It's just so you put a new plug in, you put a new plug in, it's like Orwell said, this week we're at war with East Asia. This week we're at war with whatever.
We've always been at war with East Asia.
We've always been at war with East Asia, right? They were our allies last week. You just put the new switch in, right? Because Orwell understood most people are NPCs. And that's, there are people that really want Mandalorian. They want to have fun. They want to have good movies. They might be concerned they won't be great because Mando was up and down for a lot of reasons, right? Because of Kennedy's interference. But I think they still want to go see it. And then there are these people who are literally just characters in a video game.
Well, I'll say this. I don't fault the general fandom for not trusting Lucasfilm after 10 years. I don't trust that general distrust. Lucasfilm has to earn the trust back. This is the first step into doing that. Even if the movie doesn't blow people away, as long as it's a competent film and is sincere, I think, to the fans, I think it'll still have the effect of earning goodwill back. Even if it's not $1 billion film, it doesn't have to be. It just needs to reestablish that contract with the fans. And keep in mind, I think this is important to keep in mind. This is a Jon Favreau product. It does still come from the Kennedy era. This was greenlit when she was there. So this is kind of this hybrid thing. I think even Starfighter. Did she greenlight Starfighter, or was that?
I mean, from what I understand, Starfighter was pushed forward by Jon Favreau. She had been
Favreau mostly
completely, lost her internal power. All of her eggs were in the acolyte basket. So she wasn't even. I don't think she even knew until it was like, oh, hey, would you like to meet John Levy about Starfighter? And they're like, yeah, what's that all about? Right?
Starfighter.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. That she shows up on stage, and hugs Ryan Gosling, whatever. I think that was like the first time they're like, "Oh, we're doing this."
They might have not even know she was there until she showed up. But so for me, this does not have to be a blockbuster, and I do think it only has to be sincere and good, and start to rebuild that contract. I do think it has some things going against it. Because I'll be honest, I've been rather nonchalant about the Mandalorian and Grogu, not because I hate it, not because I'm cheering against it, just because it hasn't quite gripped me. Now, when it comes out at the theaters, I'm going to go see it. I'm going to take my family, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that I'm going to really enjoy it, because then I'll go back for multiple viewings. I think what it's got working against it, just to be fair about this, Mando and Grogu came out in 2019, so 6 years ago. What was weird is at the time, that's when the sequel trilogy stumbled out and died in 2019. It stumbled out and died. It was a disaster. And lo and behold, Jon Favreau, who was kind of in the background at the time, comes up with The Mandalorian, not just a show, but a show to launch Disney Plus, which it did. And everyone loved it. It was sincere Star Wars. And by the way, I've gone back and watched some old Mandalorian episodes. They're okay. They're not great. But I was like, this show was sincere. And so I'm using
it. Was better than The Last Jedi. It was
better than The Last Jedi, but it
looks like Star Wars.
Yes, and it cared about the fans. It cared about Star Wars. It had some fun with it. So I was like, okay. So at the lowest point Star Wars had at that time, which was 2019, this brought it back because it wasn't like that. It came from a different tradition of Star Wars. It came from a different mind and group within Lucasfilm. So it did beat back all the naysayers. And I was one in 2019, 100%. I was pretty angry at Lucasfilm at that point. But I was very happy with The Mandalorian and Grogu. Second season came out. It had that unbelievable ending with Luke Skywalker coming back. It brought people to tears. Pretty epic stuff. I think that was 2021. Is that right? When Mando season 2?
It feels like that. I mean, I don't remember the exact years, but yeah. And again, that was all building. It was building to that. And then for at least a few weeks, just for maybe a few weeks, that's all we had on YouTube was reaction videos of people watching it and just crying, right? And then of course, Ms. Kennedy couldn't accept that. And so then she fires Gina Carano. So we have about a month of everyone's Star Wars is back. And then she literally responded to that by finding a way to get rid of Carano, right? And now I have a feeling we're going to come full circle. I can't say it's for sure. Let's just say I wouldn't be shocked if Ms. Carano shows up as a surprise cameo in Mandalorian and Grogu. I think there's a really decent chance that has happened. But we'll see.
I would be very happy if that I would be extremely happy if I'm sitting in the theater in a couple weeks and Cara Dune pops on the screen, because I thought that was a terrible way to treat somebody, anybody, and by a company that purports to be champions for women and portrayals of women and female representation, a company that beat us over the head and weaponized that. Firing Gina Carano seemed absolutely antithetical. I was like, you guys have completely lost me believing that that's what you're really doing. So if she gets a chance, even if it's a character that's bumped into and she turns and like, oh, excuse me, I don't care. It could be that simple.
My instinct is, my instinct is shows up. It's going to be a quick cameo, be fun moment, like, here I am to help you, Mando. Do you remember me? Right? It'll be something like that. Because the movie had essentially been wrapped by the time she had settled her lawsuit. But we do know this. I mean, we know two things. One that I've exclusively reported, because as far as I know, I'm the only one aware of it. My contact inside Sparrow had seen during while the lawsuit was still going on, had seen an alternative script in which she had been inserted that wasn't in the script that was the original script that was being filmed. So there was an alt script, and I work in Hollywood. We have alt scripts where, like, we haven't closed a deal with the actor. We don't know if we can do this, right? But let's create some scenes for the actor in case we can. I've done that, right? That's normal business practice, that if we close the deal with the actor, we've got the scenes ready to go. Oh, we didn't close the deal? Well, leave that in the drawer, right?
You have it in the back pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they had seen a script where Cara Dune had been reinstated while the lawsuit was deep in, right? So I know for a fact that they had some alt version, and that could only be used if the issue was resolved positively and she was able to come back within the time frame of the movie. Now she did resolve it spectacularly well, more than I even expected, because she got this amazing settlement where Disney comes out, praises her. Her.
Yes, that's right.
Calling her these horrible things to, like, we love working with her. In fact, we are excited to work with her again soon. I didn't expect that, right? And then Ms. Carano has said recently that shortly after that, she had at least I don't know if it's a Zoom or a meeting, but she spoke with Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, and apparently the joke was like, "Hey, so where do we leave off?" Right? But even that, to me, saying, why would Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni speak to her? I mean, unless there's business to be discussed. I mean, I mean, she could have just gotten a call from John saying, hey, I'm glad you're doing it. But this was some kind of meeting, whether online or physical. This was some kind of meeting between the two essential power players of Lucasfilm, right?
Well, and where do we, and that phrase she used in that interview, where did we leave off, which is how Favreau kind of, broke the ice, so to say, suggests now where do we leave off and where do we go from here? That's kind of implied with that kind of a greeting.
Yeah, but she's not stupid. I mean, they need to, let's assume for a second she's in there, even if it's a brief 30-second cameo, right? Yeah. That'll be enough. People will go wild in the audience. They'll just erupt. If she comes in, smiles, they will erupt. It's just like Samuel L. Jackson showing up for a minute in some random, Avengers side character movie. Everyone goes crazy, and then he's gone, right? It's like Captain America. Samuel L. Jackson don't show up until the last minute of the movie, right? Literally, the last 30 seconds he shows up, and you realize the Cap is in the 21st century, right? But everyone's like, oh, there he is. Right. So it'll be that reaction, right? But assuming that is true, then she's got to seed it a little bit, right? And with some hints, but she can't break her NDA. So she's being told what she can and cannot say. And, again, maybe she's not in it, but I think it's improbable. I think it's improbable the way things played out. I think she's got to have at least a moment. We'll see.
Well, and that did put a bad taste in a lot of the fandom's mouth. And unfortunately, it came right after one of the show's high points with the Return of Luke Skywalker. And I looked it up. Mandalorian season 2 came out in 2020. So back to back. So they didn't have the big delays that started to plague not just this show, but several shows after, like even Stranger Things and all that. But so it actually makes me even think 2019, 2020, that's when this was red hot. That's when Mando and Grogu was red hot. So it is a little dated. So the question in my mind is, can they take a TV show? And by the way, I'm not saying this rhetorically in the negative.
You're actually
asking it like legitimately. Can they take a TV show that was red hot about 5 to 6 years ago? Mm-hmm. And it was red hot. It saved Star Wars at the time, in my opinion, because after the sequel trilogy, Star Wars was done, and then boom, this just shows up and kind of saves the day. So it's about 5 to 6 years old. Season 3 was not good. It had Kennedy's fingerprints all over it. It was more of a cameo dump. I never even finished it. So it's got a lot working against it. And it seems, this was like an Iger and Kennedy concoction, like to grab some things and sandwich them together, to throw a Hail Mary. But it's in competent hands. I want to remind people, regardless of Kennedy, regardless of the contract that was broken by Lucasfilm and the fans, regardless of the ill will, this is Favreau's behind this. And Jon Favreau, by the way, I looked it up. I looked at his filmography. Has an incredible track record in film. So you have to understand, he was behind Elf, which when I was a kid, it was always, It's a Wonderful Life. It was A Christmas Story, Miracle on 34th Street growing up. Those were now it's Home Alone, it's Elf, So Elf has become a perennial cultural Christmas movie. And that's Jon Favreau, for those who didn't know. Favreau made Iron Man. That means Jon Favreau launched the MCU. Jon Favreau was behind Iron Man 2. Jon Favreau in 2016 was the first one to do the live-action adaptation of a Disney classic, The Jungle Book, which made $1 billion. And then he also did Lion King, which did $1 billion. So he invented the MCU. Basically, he laid that first brick. He did the live action remakes that have made Disney a lot of money, and I think Lion King's their most successful one, and he was behind that one. And he also did The Mandalorian The Mandalorian on Disney Plus. Jon Favreau is launching. He's made billions. His initial bricklaying has made billions of dollars for Disney. So if there's going to be a guy that's going to say, okay, how do we make this work? What are we going to do to make this work? It's going to be Jon Favreau.
Yeah, I mean, the guy has not had a miss in his career, at least feature-wise, right? Well, again, things that happened on Mandalorian, it was going great until Miss Carano was fired, and then they desperately tried to ram some episodes of Mandalorian. They had to write her out of Boba Fett, where she was apparently a big character, and ram some episodes of Mando season 3 into Boba Fett, which didn't work, and then Mando season 3 had a hole, and they filled it in with Jack Black, right? I mean, there was all this idiotic drama that wasn't the plan. That if you just left Jon Favreau alone, he had a plan, right? We're gonna do this on Carano. We're gonna introduce her in Boba. We're gonna expand her in Boba Fett. We've already introduced her. Expand her in Boba Fett. Then give her her own show. Then we're gonna do this stuff. I mean, it was all planned, and all of it was screwed up. And so everyone's like, I don't know what they're doing. It's like, no, he knows what he's doing. He didn't have this crazy person screwing up his plan, right? So I think this film, she wasn't involved at all. So, it's the odds of it not being a good movie are very low because he hasn't had a bad movie yet.
Well, and here again, I want to go back to what does this movie have to do? Some people are framing it as it's not going to cross the $1 billion mark. That's unheard of for Star Wars. Not in 2026. In 2026, Star Wars is a damaged brand. It's probably not going to make $1 billion. I don't think it will anyway, unless it is secretly a blowout. It could be really good. Go ahead.
No, I'm saying it doesn't need to. The budget was less, than the other movies. Right? Let me just actually see how much it is.
It's 100. It's less than 200 million, I think.
Yeah, it's 166, right? And under Kathleen Kennedy, everything was well over 250, 300, 400. And, she would do things like Solo, which was essentially double. It was like, it ended up being a $400 million movie, right? And made a loss as a result because she essentially refilmed the whole movie because she hadn't watched any dailies. She's like, when somebody shows her dinner, she's like, what's this movie? That's not the movie I hired these guys for. I was like, weren't you watching the dailies for the last 9 months? Right. And then the movie's about to about to go into Cannes. Let's bring in Ron Howard and do it all over again. I mean, that's not normal even by Hollywood standards. Right. So that ends up being $400 million. Maybe, I actually think that the version that those guys did of Solo would have probably been fun. It worked. Right. I think it would have worked because those guys also don't make misses. They know what they're doing. Right.
Totally.
Good, right? And so so that would have made a profit. And this thing just has to make 166. This thing has to make maybe I'll tell you exactly
300, maybe 400 mil.
Yeah, it's about 2.5 is a standard thing. So it had $415 million, 415. I think it's going to make that.
I think it'll make that, and
so make that easily. It'll make a profit.
So just to recontextualize, or to add a layer, I should say. We did a stream a while back, not that long ago, on how much money Disney lost in Lucasfilm. And that number came out to a staggering $14 billion. So let me say this. The last 10 years has created a tradition of not just losing money in films, but losing criminal amounts of money. I mean, more than the GDP of countries this company was losing. So now Jon Favreau says, give me $165 million. I'm going to make a film. It's not going to make you $1 billion, but it'll make you $1. And I think that's he's reestablishing the contract between Lucasfilm and Disney, the other people that are involved in these things, the people that care whether these things succeed. So all he has to do is be profitable. That's all he's got to do. That's one thing that he's got to do. And these are low bars, but we have to start there. That we got to jump over those low bars before we raise them again. He's got to make some money on this, and he has to make a movie that fans end up liking. That's all he's got to do. And it has to come across as sincere to the fans. I don't mind if fans come out and say, I was underwhelmed, but I think it was sincere. If they say that, he's already started to rebuild that contract because what he's not doing is attacking you.
And I don't think they'll be underwhelmed. Again, I've never seen him make a bad movie. He's never made a bad movie.
No, my point is, even if.
Yeah.
The even if argument that even if people come out and say I was underwhelmed, but it was sincere, he's already doing repair work, even at that low level. So I believe that this will be liked, and I think it'll be profitable, and I think it'll give fans something to say that's positive about Star Wars. And from what I've heard, there's actually a little bit buzz about Starfighter, which comes out next year.
Yeah, so and I think Starfighter could make $1 billion because Ryan Gosling has a worldwide fan base. Even people that aren't Star Wars people, they just want to watch Ryan Gosling, and for good reason. Like, I watched Sinners 6 times. I watched First Man 5 times.
Oh, great movie!
I love that. It's one of my top movies of all time, and
got
that's
a great
Ryan
Gosling too.
And perfect as Neil Armstrong, perfect as it, right? I mean, so Gosling, people are going to want to watch Gosling, and Sean and this this Levy guy makes good movies. They're going to want to watch it. So I think it's going to make close to $1 billion or more easily.
Well, you got Sean Levy from Stranger Things, who knows what he's doing, and then you got, like you said, Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling is about as red hot as you could be as a male star in Hollywood right now. He's beloved by all stars.
He's the last male movie star that we've got.
Unbelievable. And Starfighter, although I've heard people complain it's a generic title. I don't really care because it gives you one promise: speed. Star Wars has always had elements of speed. There's always, when people first saw Star Wars in 1977, those dog fights, it's like Beggar's Canyon back home. They go full throttle into the trench. Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, they're in the asteroid field, dodging through. And then in Return of the Jedi, you got speeder bikes through the redwood forest. Star Wars has always been about speed. It's one of their little secret special sauces. So
George was like a race car driver. He loved that. Speed was central.
Right, but he brought the danger of speed, the danger and spectacle of speed, and made it something you can experience as an audience member, but not just for the sake of speed in a galaxy with a battle station wheeling overhead. He put you into these experiences. So
I will tell you, the first Star Wars movie I saw in a theater. I saw the other two on VHS, but first one I saw was Return of the Jedi in the theater, right? And the sequence in Endor when they're having the speeder bike chase in Endor, where Luke and Leia are trying to, they're being chased by the stormtroopers, right? I must have been 13 years old, maybe something like that. I still remember my heart was pounding out of my chest as I'm watching them go through the trees and whatever. I mean, it was so incredible to watch that speeder chase, right? Because it pulled you in.
Yeah. So speed is part of the secret sauce of Star Wars, and Starfighter promises that. So in a way that just the title Mandalorian and Grogu may not suggest speed, it suggests a character, journey. Starfighter gives you that little promise of speed, which I think is a good sign as well. Yeah. So, again, I think we need to understand what this film needs to do and what. And remember, Star Wars is still a global brand, so it doesn't just have to make sense to people here in America. It's gotta land, and I think it's got to be sincere. And I think, and by the way, I was going to say, I wasn't that impressed with the trailers. The trailers were okay. I'm not saying they were bad. I love this poster. This throwback to the 20s or 30s. What era? What era is that, Cameron?
It's going back to the old Flash Gordon stuff, which inspired Lucas, right? It's intended to be that, right? It's intended to be a Flash Gordon-y kind of serial for Saturday morning, which is what inspired us.
Yeah. So, I think that, I think this movie has things going against it. I think it's a tough time to want to put out a movie for anybody. I don't care if you and me were given the reins at Lucasfilm. This would be a tough time to want to put out a movie in the legacy of what's been happening over at Lucasfilm. And to be honest, another thing came out I'd like to talk about that kind of backs up. For years, Cameron, you were talking about how frustrating it is to be laughed at or told that you're wrong by people that you just intuitively understand, like, you're wrong. And you're so confident about it's like the people
I call them Dunning-Kruger. These are Dunning-Kruger people, right? They don't know. They're so dumb, they don't know they're dumb.
And they're so confident about it. I remember I tried to have even-handed arguments why The Last Jedi, I tried to give it credit where it had credit. I tried to be even-handed with it, but I was like, these are objectively bad films. The Acolyte's objectively bad. Like there are real reasons why I think these are terrible shows or terrible films. And I can tell you, my closing argument, because you can never really win these arguments, I was like, where I will win, and we'll never be around to see each other or talk about this. You'll forget about the argument. I will win the test of time. I have a knack for knowing when something's going to and I'm not saying I'm 100%. I've been wrong about things too, but I have a knack for sensing when something is going to stand the test of time or something that's going to be forgotten next year. And a lot of the Disney Star Wars shows were that latter group. I was like, this is garbage. There's a famous interview. I don't know if it's famous to me because it made a big impact on me as a creative person, as a writer. And George Lucas is in this interview, and he's like, a lot of people think that Star Wars is lightsabers and dogfights in space and lasers and spaceships, because that's not Star Wars. Because a lot of films have those things. A lot of films have those, and none of them did what Star Wars did. Because Star Wars is all about what's underneath. Always been about what's underneath. It taught me what archetypal designs are. It taught me a lot about storytelling and why Michael Jackson works. There's something underneath. It's not just the glove. A lot of people can wear a glove, but when he wears it, it's different. It's because what's underneath that engine is driving something special. And a lot of these shows, I would watch them and I'd look for those that specialness under the hood. And I could see that it wasn't there. And the more I thought about it, the more vacant it got, the less there was to unpack. It got worse. So recently, just a couple days ago, Nielsen released last year, 2025, on May the 4th, Star Wars Day, what were the top 10 things that people were watching for Star Wars. And a little pretext, Andor's number one. I'm not knocking Andor. I actually liked Andor. Andor was very good.
Yeah, it was a good movie. It was a good show.
It just came out at this time. Mm-hmm. So Andor had a boost at being new, and it just came out. It also had 18 episodes. But Andor is number one. Star Wars A New Hope at number two, the classic. Mm-hmm. Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Love for the prequels. It continues to grow. Empire Strikes Back. That would have been my choice on Star Wars Day. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. 2 original, 2 sequels in the top 5. Mm-hmm. Attack of the Clones is up there at number 6. Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. Star Wars, a Star Wars Story, Rogue One, number 8. Tales of the Underworld, which also just came out last year. And then I've always been a big fan. I've never been ashamed to say it. I'm a huge Clone Wars fan. I love those animated shows. And that came in at number 10. And that came out in 2008 to 2012. That is old. That is animated. And that made the chart. Missing Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, The Rise of Skywalker, The Acolyte, all the shows that people were yelling in my face, telling me were great shows, and like getting red in the face to tell me how misguided I was. No one's watching them. My belief that there's nothing under the hood to those shows, this is where some of that would be borne out.
Sure. I mean, again, it wasn't surprising. I mean, for me, when I watched The Force Awakens, I was so eager and excited for it, right? And then I watched it, and I laughed, and I had a fun time, and then I walked out of it feeling kind of hollow, like I'd eaten too much, Twinkies, right? Right. It wasn't which I don't feel hollow watching any of the first 3 movies, and I like the prequels, right? I didn't even feel hollow walking out of what do we call it? Star Wars, Phantom Menace. I didn't like it. I've come to like it more over time.
Right, me too.
Certainly better than anything in the sequels, right? So, but I didn't feel hollow, and I watched Phantom Menace a couple of times, right? Whereas I didn't watch TFA ever again. That was a weird warning sign that it's the first Star Wars movie I didn't watch again in the theater, right? Because I felt like I didn't get anything new. And I was incredibly excited for The Last Jedi because, I liked that director, what he had done with his previous movies, right? Looper, I loved Looper. I saw Looper multiple times, right? And I was so excited. And then I was just utterly horrified. I saw it again because I already bought a second ticket because I assumed I was going to love it, right? And I saw it again. I was like, I can't. Maybe I misunderstood the movie. I'll watch it again. And I was horrified the second time, right? And so, and then I never saw the final episode. I never saw it. I barely know the plot of it, right? Because I was out at that time.
Well, and The Force Awakens, I'm never ashamed to admit that I liked it too when it first came out. I had my reservations, but The Force Awakens is essentially a $2 billion IOU. It opens up, now it's characteristic of a J.J. Abrams approach to start, like the mystery boxes. You have all these open threads everywhere, and nobody at that time would have thought in a million years that you would do this without having a plan. So all of us felt like we were in good hands with the open ends. We're like, okay, this will all be explained. And I remember I had my complaints about The Force Awakens as well, but I got to see the Millennium Falcon corkscrewing, skimming a desert planet. I got a lot of the things that I was hoping for. Mm-hmm. But my dad, I remember he had a theory. I hated that Rey beat Kylo Ren. I was like, you can't. I was like, that breaks that like hurt my head. I was like, that breaks a fundamental aspect of growth if you beat them right away. So my dad said there's a moment where they're fighting lightsabers and they lock and they show a close-up of Kylo and a close-up of Rey. She closes her eyes and my dad goes, what music are they playing? And I was like, oh, Luke Skywalker's theme. And this is 2015. He goes, he taught her and she's remembering her training. I was like, that's why she won. Then that would explain. So I remember I almost just blindly then took that blindly. I was like,
brother, they were J.J. Abrams was setting that up in the ads for the movie. There was a voiceover that was never in the movie, but it was in the ads where you have Luke's voice, Mark Hamill saying, the Force is strong in my family. My father had it. I have.
I remember that.
Has it, and you have it too. So the mystery it felt like it's implying that that Rey was a relative or a family member, because that's how they sold it. That's how they marketed it. That's what I thought was there, and that's kind of what's implied in TFA. And then Rian Johnson comes in with an agenda, right? And decides again, the tragedy of him is that he is capable of making incredible movies, and that's why it's the worst movie ever made, because it's a man with really A-list talent choosing to destroy something beautiful, right?
It does look like it was deliberate. Yeah.
And there's something seriously wrong with him to make him want to do that. I mean, it was a personal choice. There's just something wrong with him as a human being that made him want to do that, right? And so but that's the thing, is that's why Abrams was like, what do you do? This isn't what I wanted. You're supposed to take my mystery boxes and do something with them, because I don't know what to do with them, but you're not supposed to throw them out.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the Rise of Sky. So Last Jedi was a rebuke of The Force Awakens, and then The Rise of Skywalker was a rebuke of The Last Jedi. And that's not that's not storytelling. That's two directors.
It was someone at the time said, think of basically the three movie, Last Jedi versus whatever that, the third movie, whatever the hell it was called. It's literally like each director doing this to the other person, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's like, screw you, now screw you back.
Yeah, and that's not storytelling. But yeah, that hollow feeling you were talking about coming out of The Force Awakens, I toggled back and forth. I know the hollow feeling you're talking about. I toggled back and forth, but I realized in retrospect that I had fooled myself into believing there was something there that really just wasn't there. But I did have those hollow feelings, and I definitely had it after The Last Jedi. And that hollow feeling, and for anyone listening who's like, I know there's something wrong and I can't put my hand on it or my finger on it, you don't have to. If it feels wrong, there's something wrong with that story. There's something missing.
He was phoning it in. He was phoning it in, which is, again, he's a tragic figure because he is capable of being a great filmmaker. Regarding Henry proves that. That's his first script. He's capable of being a great original storyteller, but for whatever reason, and I think it started on Felicity, he just decided to mimic people. Like, Alias, the opening episode of Alias is literally taken from Run Lola Run, the German film, right? Even to the point of her costuming, it's taken from Run Lola Run. So it's like I was like, why are you stealing from this German movie? You're a great storyteller, right? And then from that point on, he just starts mimicking, and he takes pride in it. I'm like, dude, you're capable of more than this. But by the time Force Awakens comes, that's his brand. I'm a mimic. I'm mimicking Spielberg.
I think they were rewarding him and praising him. There's that famous TED Talk where he's like, boom, mystery box, boom, mystery box. He thought he had this great idea, and it was a really bad idea that no one had discovered yet, is really what it was. And it's funny because about maybe 4 years ago, I don't know, a while ago, but semi-recent, I tried to watch Force Awakens again out of pure curiosity. I was like, what's it like to put this on now?
With all the knowledge you have afterwards.
With all this that I put it on, and at first I was like, this could have been, there's a likability to it. Poe Dameron, John Boyega, or the actors were good.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was like, boy, this did have something. The problem was, like, for example, right away, he gives them that maybe he's like, what does he say? That Max von Sydow, he says something that's like open-ended. And I was like, we never heard about that. We never really, then she goes, a story for another day. We never heard about that. So I was like, all these characters, including Maz Kanata, all these people that I thought were so important when I was watching this, they meant nothing. The entire story is unwatchable.
The tragedy is, because I see our friend Sterling Jones in the comments talking about Rose Tico, right? Who's a wonderful actress. She's a great actress who was really racistly mistreated in these films. Racistly mistreated, right? She was made beautiful actress, made to look like she was wearing a potato sack in The Last Jedi, right? She was literally like, oh, we can't let this beautiful Asian woman outshine the beautiful white woman, right? I mean, it was really racist how they made her look ugly and look like a weird geeky girl when she is a really good looking woman.
I've seen her pictures. I was stunned. I was like, that's Rose Tico?
Yeah, and they went out of their way to make her look like that, and then made her this weird stalker. It was a racist characterization. It was insulting, right? But what's amazing is we talk, the movie that was never filmed. In fact, I don't think you've ever read the script. I have it. I can get it if you want. The script of the Duel of Fates, which was the movie that was never filmed. Right?
Is that Trevorrow?
Colin Trevorrow was going to make that movie, and he co-wrote the script. And let's just say it was leaked to me by people that wanted people to know that Trevorrow did a good job, right? Because he was fired from that. And the Duel of Fates is an incredible script, because Trevorrow was told, he said it publicly, he had asked, Kathleen Kennedy, can we just edit out the last minute of Last Jedi because where Luke dies and fades away, because I need him in my movie. She's like, nope, that's canon. He's dead. We're gonna do that, and your next movie has to go with him being dead. He's like, all right, I'll make it work, and he made it work. He literally said, I gotta fix this, and he fixed The Last Jedi. It's a great script. From the first page, you're like, okay, I'm going with this. It's a Star Wars. And what's amazing about that script, Rose Tico is the best character in that movie. She is so compelling, so interesting. Because she goes undercover as a spy into the First Order, risking her life. And you're reading the script, you're like, hey, can we get back to Rose Tico? I want to see. She's in real Penelope Peril situation.
Wow.
I want to see how she gets out of it. Can we get back to Rose Tico? Get back to Rose Tico. And and it's just you're looking at this, and you're like, this movie would have worked. This movie would have ended it. This movie would have satisfied the few, whatever the sequel, the Last Jedi fans, whatever 20% they were, and everybody else, because this is Star Wars, man. And Rey, she no Mary Sue. She gets her ass kicked real hard. She gets her ass kicked by Kylo in this movie really hard, to the point she's physically debilitated in the film and has to use the Force to survive. She's in really bad shape, and because Kylo's stronger than her. And one of the most brilliant parts of that film, he's like, okay, can't you use Luke is dead? All right, and he came up with this trope. This is brilliant. So Luke is now dead. He's a Force ghost. So he starts haunting Kylo, and Kylo can't get rid of him. So Kylo's got this guy showing up, basically saying, mocking him and guiding him. And he's like, can you get out of here? It's one of the funniest stuff in the script is that Kylo can't get rid of Mark. He can't get rid of Luke. Luke's just showing up and basically lecturing him from the other side. And Kylo's going crazy. They can't get rid of this Force ghost. It's brilliant use. All right, he's dead. Well, he's a major character in the movie because he shows up constantly harassing Kylo, and it's brilliant.
Wow. Well, and because we've only seen Force ghosts meet with their own, the good guys with the good guys. That's completely different. Who was the main bad guy in Duel of Fates?
The main bad guy was the General Force Order, right? And it was Kylo, right?
Okay, so he preserved.
Kylo does get redeemed, but in a much more believable way, right? He has a real arc towards redemption in this film. And I will tell you this: the ending is so emotional when the movie is finally over. The ending is so emotional because, and in this film, God bless her, Carrie Fisher is a major character because she was still alive when he wrote the script, right?
Right.
And so she's Leia, and Leia, you got Chewbacca flying an X-wing. There was incredible moments in this, right? But then you had Leia, at the very end of the movie, which is, I'm spoiler alert, it's the end of the movie you're never going to see, right? But the very end of the movie was R2 suddenly reveals that he's been recording everything since the first movie. And so he plays for Leia, her parents. He shows what happened to them.
My God!
He shows the prequels. He shows the prequels to her. He shows her.
My God!
So to see, she finally gets to see her mother, and she finally understands what happened to Anakin because she didn't. Because Luke ain't allowed to tell her anything anymore, and she gets to see her family play out because R2 was recording since the first movie.
Oh my God! How do you throw that away?
Because she didn't read the script. She just got rid of him because he had one flop movie and she just wanted the cool kid. He wasn't cool anymore.
Oh, man, because I always said it's a tough one, right? Because it's episode 9. Mm-hmm. And so you're not just tying up the sequel trilogy. You have to tie up all 9. And that is a way to do, and that's a tough thing to do. That's a way to do it. Rise of Skywalker didn't do it at all. They completely skipped it.
This movie brought the entire franchise to full sequence at the end when you realize R2 knows everything, has always known that Vader he always knew it because he saw it all, right? But he just was programmed to not reveal it until the end. And now he tells Leia the whole story. And she finally has an emotional connection with her past.
Oh my God. That's irritating.
It's really great. It as a writer, you'll be blown away. You're like, this movie worked.
Oh my God. And you know what? That would have blew me away, because if they would have found a way to clean it up, I could have at least left saying it might not have been perfect, but at least they stuck the landing. And they
you would have walked out of there saying this is a great movie, and you're like, all right, fine, The Last Jedi sucked. This made it work. He explains everything in The Last Jedi. He explains all the stuff that doesn't make any sense in The Last Jedi. He's like, literally, I gotta fix this movie, and he fixes it.
Duel of Fates. And that's a great title.
The script is incredible.
So there's someone in the chat. I think Sterling Jones asked where you could find it. It looks like it's online. Online.
It was leaked to me and a few other people years ago, because Trevorrow's people were his people around him were fed up that he was getting all this negative press, and they're like, we should get it out there, let people know. That's actually how I met Doomcock. Is that I was just a guy, and like people in the chat. I was like, hey, Doomcock, man, I wrote in the chat. It's like, I got a copy of the script. Would you like it? And he's like, yeah. And that's how I developed a relationship with him, right? But
wow. Well, all I want to say is it is a new era at Star Wars. Iger's gone. Kennedy's gone. We do have much more competent people in charge at Lucasfilm. Mm-hmm. This is their first movie, Mando and Grogu. Regardless of where you stand with the past Lucasfilm, I think that it's a fair thing to ask to go see it and give an honest assessment. If you don't like it, you don't like it. But go see it and check it out, and let's see what Favreau could do. Let's see where we're at. Let's see what the next chapter might look like here. And by the way, you're not going to see a sequel to Mando and Grogu. This is a closing out movie type of thing. This is
they're moving on with the storyline to other stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the end of, let me put it this way. This is how I see it. Mm-hmm. Lucasfilm, the last 10 years was a disaster, but it was a tale of two companies. Mm-hmm. There was the Favreau faction and the Kennedy faction. And we've covered this in the past. There was a civil war inside Lucasfilm during certain periods where the Favreau camp was pushing out and the Kennedy camp trying to rein it back in. And ultimately, I think Kennedy won. I think she crushed everything, and she won by simply outlasting everybody. She just stayed longer. She won the war of attrition, but she is gone. She is gone. And the Favreau faction that did all the best stuff, they did some of the best stuff out there. They were on our side this whole time. They're the ones that are in control of this company, mainly at this point. So we have to give this faction time to rebuild the company. So I'm going to go see it. I'm going to bring my family, and I hope I love this thing, because I will go again. We'll go multiple times.
Yeah, but again, Star Wars is working. Maul people are loving Maul. So the idea is that if this movie is just okay, that Star Wars is, people are loving Maul. They're getting stuff back on track, right? So it's not like every single thing sucks. People are loving Maul. So, if the movie's okay, I think it's going to be more than okay, but whatever. Then wait for Starfighter, which is going to probably be great, right? Because by that point, Kennedy's hands are way out of the picture, right? So.
And see, I'll also say this, and I've always believed this. Who cares about the noise? Mm-hmm. Who cares about the noise? The movie's either going to be good or bad. Mm-hmm. And the noise isn't, in my opinion, the noise isn't going to stop a good movie. If the movie's good, word will get out. They tried to put bad word out there for Michael, and it was a great movie. It's undeniable, and the film shined. Even if, again, this is the even if argument, this isn't the perfect movie, and let's say Starfighter is.
Sure.
Everyone's going to forgive. You're one movie away from bringing this stuff back. So there's no real such thing as Star Wars is dead or Star Trek is dead. You're one competent storyteller, one competent filmmaker, one great story away from reminding everybody why we love these franchises.
Yeah, so absolutely.
And then I'll ask.
I've emailed you Duel of the Fates. It's a password protected one, so check it out, and then I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay, and then we'll close with a fun question. Sterling Jones asked it, and it's a fun one to chew on. Will the sequel trilogies be decanonized?
All right. Well, it's fun because it's tragically fun, right? Because this is the new mantra of people on YouTube within the last 24 hours, because yesterday all these people started reporting like robots, like NPCs, that Lucasfilm is planning to erase the trilogy using the World Between Worlds. Now, I reported that 3 years ago because I heard directly from a friend who has written top Marvel movies, who's a big screenwriter, bigger than me, way bigger than me, right? But he's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. And he saw that I was on YouTube and on Patreon. And so he's like, hey, man, I just want to let you know. I talked to people at Disney at a very high level. He's like, that's This was like 3 years ago. He's like, Favreau's plan is he hates these sequels. He'll use the world between worlds. And I reported that. And all of these people who are reporting this scoop mocked me. They mocked me because the world between worlds hadn't been established in live action yet. There was no evidence it was going to come in. Then, of course, it appears in Ahsoka, right?
Ahsoka season 1.
And so it's, and now they're all talking about this is their great insider scoop that I got from an insider 3 years ago. It is so idiotic and so comical, right? But what can you do? I mean, these grifters are going to grift, right?
Yeah. Well, and I also say this. So I've wondered about this. I'm like, but so my heart says, please decanonize these movies. They are pure poison to this brand. And it's like they're there and they're like, you got to walk around them to tell another story, But there's realities. It's really difficult to just decanonize a 3 trilogy trailer that called itself episode 7, 8, and 9. But I hope they do it because at the end of the day, those movies broke continuity. It's gibberish. It's gibberish storytelling. So it's not doing. They didn't sell. Toy sales fell.
Yeah, the characters at the parks are essentially gone.
Yeah, and we just showed you Nielsen proved. And by the way, interesting timing from Nielsen to finally say, hey, by the way, no one's watching the sequel trilogy now that Kennedy's gone. I guess I could publish this. Mm-hmm. But like I was saying,
a year later they published this.
If you've been with Cameron's Patreon, or at least speaking to like-minded people who try to be even-handed with this stuff, who try to call balls and strikes with Star Wars, nothing that came out in the last couple of days is news. The Nielsen ratings, I love seeing the receipts. I love being like, finally, but I knew that. I instinctively, I knew that no one's going to watch those shows.
I mean, that wasn't shocking news.
Right.
I'd be shocked if they had been in the top 10. I'd be like, really? Who's watching this?
Well, and what's funny is every now and then I do watch other YouTube channels. I used to watch a lot of channels daily. Now it's maybe once every several months. I'll chime in. I'll check one out. And it's funny because because I feel like we've had our own version of thinking and discussing about Star Wars that is like its own lane. The idea that the Rey movie was not going to come out was like established years ago. We're like, okay, a fake announcement. There's not going to be a Rey movie.
Who established that? I established that.
Right. Which
was against me, and you didn't believe me.
I did, because it was the opposite of what just happened at the time. So ultimately what happened was some people reported a fake story. And it's been proven that the story is fake. And so to get a scoop on a fake story means the person who planted the fake story had to leak it to you, or at least the people in that. So it's a weird thing to pat yourself on the back for, in my opinion. I think the right thing to do would be like, hey, we passed on what we were told. At the end of the day, we concede this is a fake story. But you can't. If I was them, I'd be like, hey, you can't fault us for getting excited. We thought we had a scoop,
because
I think that. Yeah.
They can't concede it because it's what I said, Doug. This was coming directly from Kathleen Kennedy's inner circle, as my person inside of Lucasfilm said nobody in the company, including most of her monkeys, knew about, that poor Daisy. They didn't know. This was only like, the incredible inner circle of Kathleen Kennedy knew this. So if you are leaking that there's going to be a Rey movie, you got it from Kathleen Kennedy or her immediate band. So you can't admit it. You're supposedly fighting against Kennedy and you're getting leaks directly from her inner circle because they see you as an ally. They can't admit it. That's why they still won't admit it to this day.
Well, and it seems just a complete, passive observer. It seemed like Pablo Hidalgo was like all around that stuff at the time. And he's a story group guy, and he's definitely had his fingers on the pulse of YouTubers. He famously mocked Star Wars theory and all that. So he's involved in that, and he was quoted and cited several times. And my theory is that Pablo Hidalgo and a group of his group probably did leak it and probably did. And I don't even fault a channel for running with it. I really don't, because if someone...
I fault them for running with it because they were attacking Pablo Hidalgo publicly while possibly receiving intel from him. That's not integrity.
I gotcha. Well, and I do think that you see it more from a professional. I think that you could see a little bit more of an overarching structure sometimes that a general YouTuber is probably not worried about. Like, I always compared it to, if you're a YouTuber and your job is to talk about things or to rant or to then you want to drive through the congestion. You want to drive downtown in the congested traffic.
Had he leaked it to me, had Pablo Hidalgo leaked it to me, I would have immediately known it's a lie or a manipulation, right? And so I would suggest anyone that he would have leaked it to in YouTube who had been public against him should have known that, because their public stance is that. So if they presented it, it's what I've said. There's no integrity in it. That's why I call them blobs. It's not because they believe what they're saying. They're trying to make money. Oh, I'm attacking Pablo Hidalgo. That's giving me clicks. Pablo Hidalgo wants to give me a leak. That'll give me clicks. There's no moral. There's literally there's no morality to it. These are carnival barkers. Yeah. These are Wizard of Oz guys, right? They're standing there in Kansas selling snake oil to any sucker they can. I can't respect that.
Well, and at the end of the day, I made peace with it back at Star Wars Celebration when they announced the Rey movie was coming out. And I, like I said, I had that little crisis of trying to understand who.
Yeah, you kind of thought maybe Cameron is an idiot. You thought that for a little bit, and it's okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because it's just to be authentic about it. But I was very confused on who to listen to. But at the end of the day, I made peace with it around that time. It didn't take me too long, but I made peace with it. I was like, okay, that is a fake story. She jumped the gun, and because no trades talked about a possible Kennedy announcement. She got everybody. So she started the secret.
As a desperate effort to be relevant and to fight the what I'd been told. She'd been told it's time for you to essentially to tell people you're going to be moving out, and she said no. Let me show you that I'm not moving out. Here's a surprise. What are you going to do now? I got Daisy Ridley on stage. Are you going to contradict me, Mr. Iger? Are you going to create a public PR crisis? You got to go with it, right? I'm still around now.
So the real story in my head then, and nothing has disproven this since, is that Kathleen Kennedy usurped Star Wars Celebration.
Yes.
She made an announcement that she did not tell Iger or anyone else. I don't know if anyone remembers this. Iger had a shareholder meeting like 2 days before that. He just said nothing about this. And that's a great time to tell somebody you got, but he never publicly made any statements supporting or backing it up. So I was like, that's all weird if she had the blessing of all of this. So I think she usurped that Star Wars Celebration. She got Daisy Ridley to come out, which is becoming more and more of a Hollywood stunt.
Daisy Ridley admitted 6 months later in an interview, she said she didn't know about it until that morning. She was having breakfast.
Which matches up.
Would you like to come on stage? I got a surprise for you. We're making a movie about you. She's like, what? Okay, that's why she looked like a deer in headlight when she was brought on stage. She'd been told that an hour before.
So, and I noticed since that Star Wars Celebration, the professional industry attitude toward Kathleen Kennedy changed. They were very protective of her the whole way through. Yeah. Now, she had allies in the press, but I'll never forget when Indiana Jones came out and Steven Spielberg snubbed her. I was like, oh, man. I was like, this all adds up to what Cameron said, that she pulled a fast one. She extended her stay. She made an announcement to try to get to extend the runway, and she pissed off the rest of the establishment. She kept her friends and the allies fighting her proxy battles, and she just clung on as long as she could. And then she left, and guess what? No Rey movie. So the story that I made peace with way back then has panned out year after year, story after story, all the way through. And that's the reality of it. She did not announce a new movie that day. She made an announcement about something that never came to pass.
And it was for me because I've endured 25 years of Hollywood politics. I've endured 25 years of PR, of sitting in rooms where this is what we got to tell the public about this show, right? Our actor is having an affair with another actor on the show, and it's going to cause we got to make sure this don't get out. I mean, I've been in these situations where you're watching false narratives being created to keep the money flowing. I've been there, right? So it's so none of you guys can believe that they would do that. Of course they would do that because this is billions of dollars. right? And this is a high stakes poker. Like you've written about the Byzantine Empire. This is how the years behaved, in the Byzantine imperial court, right? Because there's an empire at stake. This is what you do.
I think what shocked me is I could believe that narratives are developed to hide things. I could believe I think in the last 10 years I've been shocked. They're actually stupid about it. But because they have so much power, like these dumb scenarios, like get legs and like work.
Was stupid about it. She didn't know how to do this because she never had to. She floated on Frank Marshall's reign on his coattails for 40 years. And you watch Back to the Future, there's her name on it. Like, I don't think she had anything to do with that movie, right? Frank, there's Steven Spielberg.
She's mentioned it in Jaws. She's in the credits of Jaws. I was like, oh my God.
She's never had to. So she never developed these skills. She didn't develop these skills of like, there's a lot of pathological liars in Hollywood, right? And they're very, very good at it. They're very good at it, right? Because they've been honing the skill since they were in elementary school, right? They're crazy, narcissistic, dangerous people, and they become powerful in Hollywood, right? And so, but she never had to hone these skills. So she would do these ham-fisted, poorly thought out things like, oh, let's pull up Daisy Ridley at the last minute. Who's like, what's going on here, right? Oh, here's this Pakistani woman that's never directed a movie before. Well, I'll look really liberal by putting her there, right? Nobody knows what's going on, right? And you're like, this isn't a plan. Like, this isn't a scheme. Jon Favreau, now these morons on YouTube are admitting that this, the world between the worlds is how they're going to get rid of it. I reported 3 years ago that Jon Favreau was planning this. This. That's a plan that now you morons have caught up to, right? He had this in works for 3 years and he schemed it out and thread the needle through all this chaos and never lost the thread through all of the chaos for the last 3 years. That's somebody who knows how to play the game. She doesn't know how to play this game.
Well, my big theory about Kennedy is that her real skill set was in not storytelling on screen, storytelling through the media. I feel like that's where she excelled. She could create a headline.
She's good with press. She knows how to make the journalist say what she wants.
Yeah, it was journal fiction instead of science fiction, and she could create a good headline, a good interview. She could create an announcement. She could create buzz. And in fact, I was just thinking this the other day on May 4th because it was a rather quiet May 4th, and I was like, Kennedy would never have had a quiet. She would have beat us over the head with a million things. So I feel like they're just not Kennedy. They're not working the media. They're not as worried about that. They'll probably get their sea legs under them and get all that going. But I think the key is you gotta be honest.
They've just come out of a war, man. And they're tired. They're tired. They've still got crazy people that they're dealing with. They can't make happy no matter what they do. They got to get their sea legs.
Well, if Mando and Grogu ends up being a really good movie and ends up with some good legs and makes a lot of money, then they're going to look smart for being quiet on May 4th. Because now, if they can win back some of the fans, then next May 4th is where you start to say, we got a plan. This is what we're doing. Full speed, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead.
Yeah, and let's be hopeful. Like I said, I think Star Wars is going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You know why it's going to be okay? Because Maul's doing great. Yeah. And I reported on my Patreon that I've been reporting it for over a year and a half that their plan was to make great animated shows because they don't have the money for the big movies. So they said rebuild Star Wars through animation. And guess what? The first thing that came out of that plan was Maul, and it is across the board a beloved show.
And it's suspiciously identical to George Lucas's sequel trilogy scripts. Because I read part of them. I read part of the George Lucas scripts, I'm sorry, not the scripts, the treatments. Sure. And the treatments said Darth Maul survives and slowly rebuilds a crime syndicate to begin launching these sort of asymmetric attacks against the New Republic and grows in power through the trilogy. So I'm watching Maul and I'm like, this is George Lucas's idea. This is technically setting up his
the stuff that Iger said, and he threw it over his shoulder, didn't even look at it. He had no idea what it was, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't even know.
Yeah, but again, but that's the example of, Filoni was trained by Lucas, right? And he's loyal to him, right? And again, Lucas knows his baby. Amazingly, something that's inspired from Lucas works. What a shock.
Yeah, Lucas, it's so funny. You listen to my dad always says he's amused by George Lucas in an interview, because he says such simple things like, "Oh, I thought it'd be cool to have like this thing here, and then maybe like a monster over there with an eye." Like he talks like it's all simplistic, but under the hood is that powerful engine I always talk about, the thing that really does elevate and stand the test of time. And not everyone can do that, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, Cameron, is there anything else you'd like to say about either Michael or Mando and Grogu for everybody?
I think people should go see Michael. I think you're going to love it. I think people should go see Mando, and I hope you like it. But, don't give up hope. Don't become one of these mentally ill black pills, right? Where everything is bad inherently, right? That's just mental illness. That's sickness, right? It's a sickness of your soul, because you end up being miserable all the time. And if you really believe that, you just forget about it. But instead, you come on to channels and argue about it because you're obsessed with it. It's a form of mental illness. I'm wishing all of you to not be mentally ill, right? Maybe that's too much to ask for from Star Wars fans. Like, I don't know. Because I'm kind of crazy too. We're all a little bit off kilter because we're Star Wars fans. But maybe try to stay within. Don't go into the black hole. Stay around the singularity of mental illness, which is Star Wars. Right.
Yeah, and it's cultural mythology. It's special. It's special for a reason. So, and by the way, we'll be back here in a couple of weeks. The movie will have been released. Yeah. We'll all get a chance to see it. We'll come back here and we'll discuss it. We'll say what we liked, what we didn't like, and we'll come up to a final conclusion. What was Mando and Grogu worth it? Did it repair any part of the contract with the fans? Did it give the company chance to make a few bucks again? We'll do an analysis.
We'll do it. And I'll be happy to come on at that time. All right, we should probably start winding down. Thank you for having me on. And I've talked a lot about my Patreon, and I'll throw in a link before we go. Come join me there, because now, as you can see, things I report on there 3 years ago are now the official narrative of all your buddies on YouTube. After those same people mocked that for 3 years, right? Now that's the Bible, right? So maybe come join me on Patreon, because there's other stuff I'm saying about where the stuff is going that's probably going to come true in the next week, in the next couple.
Well, and it's fun to have even sometimes heated debates and discussions with people who are trying to call balls and strikes. You can have a good discussion with somebody and come out and really like that person later. So anyway, come on out there. We talk. Cameron's really good at what's the word? Guiding or hosting these discussions and keeping it moderated.
Minimal. I think most of the really crazy people have left my Patreon by now. The ones who just come in and just start attacking. That's years ago they've left. So I guess we have normal people having intelligent arguments and discussions.
Yeah, and it's drama free. And I hate drama. I really do hate drama. It's drama free, and it's always food for thought. And I think it's important to note that it does treat storytelling, the movie making industry, as something that is redeemable always, and capable of doing great things. So
because it's part of the human spirit, storytelling it comes naturally with the human ability to speak. It just comes with it, right? And it's part of what defines us as human beings. So it ain't going away anywhere.
So check out Cameron's Patreon, and I have a YouTube channel. Click like and subscribe if you want more of these discussions. I am less frequent, but when I do come on, I do try to get substantive and dig in and really talk about these things. And Cameron is a very recurring guest. Retro Nerd Girl sometimes comes out here. Lorena, Lance from Outcast Creative, and Paulie. We got to get Paulie back out. But anyway, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and we'll be back to talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu. It's on deck.
All right, guys. God bless everyone. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Peace.